Welcome to Fallon Radio. In today's episode, I'm going to be breaking down exactly what we did to go from 31 emails on our email list for our wedding events business to 31 calls booked for our wedding events business in a matter of less than 24 hours. Let's dive in. So, for those of you who don't know, I have multiple businesses. I have a wedding events business and I also have my online business. Now, my wedding events business, we do a lot of stuff in person, and a lot of the ways that we typically get any kind of lead, any kind of client is through in person expositions. So, basically, it's kind of like a sneaker show, but for weddings. So, when we go to these wedding shows, we set up a booth. It's typically 10 feet by 20 feet and we showcase what we're capable of in terms of decor, wedding coordination, event planning, timeline coordination, etc. And so this past weekend, what's today? Today's the 9th of January. This past weekend, the 3rd and 4th of January 2026, we were at the Meadowlands Wedding Expo. When we were there, we were really struggling on the first day to get a lot of interest, and we wound up just kind of pulling a page right out of our clipboard and putting out the page for people to fill out their contact information as far as email address and phone numbers go. Now, we wound up getting 31 emails on the first day. However, there's a distinction, and Alex Hormozy actually pointed this out a while ago. There's a distinction between getting an email and then when the email goes out. So let's take this very exact scenario, for example. These people were in person at the expo. They got to meet us. They saw our booth, our designs, our decor, our neon sign, the whole 9 yards, right? And we did not get them to interact or interface with anything besides the clipboard page where they wrote down their email and maybe their phone number. So what we did was, while we got contact information, we didn't get buy-in. If you really think about it in terms of a sale or in terms of collecting true leads, we did not get true buy-in, because true buy-in comes in where you have something on the schedule, where you're making a commitment, where you're saying yes to something. And we have a stack. We want to think of it in terms of like stacking micro commitments. Yes. However, writing an email is a micro commitment. It's not a macro commitment like a sales call is. So we got 31 emails, which was great. We sent out the email the night of, when we got back to the house, to those 31 people who signed up. But did they book anything? Again, it's a micro commitment, not a macro commitment. So no, they didn't book anything. And in fact, it's going to be difficult for those 31 people to ultimately come to a decision of whether or not they want to work with us, because we didn't get to the point of a macro commitment. Now, in the span of 24 hours, Tommy and I rethought. I just whacked my microphone. Tommy and I rethought this entire conversation. So when we approached day 2 of the expo, because it was Saturday and Sunday, when we approached day 2 strategy for the expo, we thought about it completely differently. Yes, we wanted to get some kind of contact information, but the most important thing was to get them on the calendar, to get them to book the call. Because if they don't book the call, they're not truly invested. They're not truly thinking about, oh yeah, if this is something that they're looking for, or if there's something that they're considering. We want them to get on the phone, because the more attention you can get from someone, the more you can keep somebody's attention, the more likely you're going to get them to eventually purchase. So when we went to day 2 of the expo, we approached this from a different angle, where instead of them putting their contact information, we created the lead form for them to just sign up right there on the spot. They could choose a time. It was almost like a Calendly link if you're thinking about online businesses, right? You could pull up a calendar, they could choose a time, they write in their contact information, and then the call gets immediately integrated into my Zoom and it's booked. So we wound up going from 31 emails to 31 calls that way. However, there was a caveat. When we're talking about macro investments, we're talking about, we want to be able to have the reciprocal exchange here, right? They're giving us a time frame that they're available, a time slot that they're available, as well as their contact information. So we want to be able to also give something in return for that information. So the way that we approached this was, okay, we have stuff that we can create a giveaway for. Instead of creating this random giveaway because they tagged us on our Instagram story or whatever, Why don't we actually give them a gift bag? So for every person who schedules a call, you'll get a gift bag. Were there those occasional people who got a bag that didn't schedule a call? Yes. And I was particularly perturbed by a few of them because of what they said after they took all of our material. However, it got to the point where people were like, oh, well, can I just get a grab bag? And I was like, no, if you want a bag, you have to schedule a call. So they scheduled the call. So we went from getting 31 emails to 31 calls. Now, it is more than likely that not all 31 are going to show up. And have we considered that and experienced that through the time in between since the 5th or the 4th to now? Yes, we absolutely have. We've had about 6 calls and only one has showed up so far. However, that's one more than the day before when we only got 31 emails. So what's really important here is to consider, one, the reciprocal energy. If you're looking to get something, it is important to give something in return, because otherwise you're not going to get what it is that you're looking for. This is, in terms of an online business, very prominent and obvious in a lead magnet. So if someone is looking to get access to your lead magnet, whether it's a PDF download, whether it's a template, whether it's a guide, whether it's, 7 days access to your membership, whatever the case may be, give them the content, give them the material in exchange for their contact information. Now they're a part of your email list and they're getting whatever they're looking for in terms of template, guide, PDF download, ebook, whatever the case may be. Now, I would also want to caveat this with the information, the content that they're going to get. I would go about it one of two ways. You either give them something that's not really going to change their life at all, like a template, right? Or you really bake in a lot of groundbreaking stuff for people. Now, you could create just an Excel spreadsheet and call it a day. But if you have Notion and you can create new posts and it's going to come up with this template and you're going to have this, schedule error and it's going to have this KPI associated with it and you can enter this down here. You're baking it a little bit more. You're adding more to it. You're making it a little bit more user friendly, a lot more clear for people. And you're giving more of your time to creating that particular freebie than just creating an Excel spreadsheet and calling it a day. Now, when we're thinking about going from that free offer or that grab bag, if you will, to a paid offer, that's where there's a little bit more investment in terms of energetic conviction, right? Now, we know when it comes to the freebie or the grab bag, like, yeah, I'll give you this for that, right? Reciprocal exchange. Now, when we're talking about a paid particular item, then okay, that exchange gets a little bit higher, right? Because now we're associating a price tag with it. And it all comes down to the energy. If you consider it at the end of the day, if somebody's going to pay you, let's just take the decor package that we have, for example, right? Our decor package is $1,100 standard. Okay. If you want an add-on, yeah, okay, we'll do the add-on. And if you want real flowers, it's going to bring the price up a little bit. Let's just say it goes from 1,100 to 1,500 for the sake of numbers, right? Real flowers is a different energetic exchange than the standard flower package. And so that comes across when we're talking about it, about the scope of the package. And that even comes across in terms of, okay, now you have a real flower. It has an actual scent. It's giving off an actual texture that's not like flaky or like clothy, because a fake flower is going to feel clothy like that, right? There's a different energy. And so it's not just apparent in a particular item, a tangible item, or like a service in terms of what you're capable of putting together for someone. That also comes down to an intangible service, like an education service as well, in terms of online businesses, coaches, creators, courses, etc. When we're creating our packages, we want to be convicted that this is different. So let's just use the example of my business Notion strategy template for my current online business and my new offer that's coming out, the expression era. Okay, cool. So my business Notion template has the outcomes, KPIs, the content schedule, the short form workflow, long form workflow. You also get a podcast management template if you're a podcaster. You get I don't even remember. Like, you get hooks in there. There's so much baked into that particular Notion strategy template because it's literally what I built for my own business back in 2024 when I wanted to go into 2025. And then I reposted it and I created a couple more things for 2026. So that template is 100% completely built. I use it all the time. It's great. It helps me clearly go through things. We don't want to necessarily clutter it up, right? However, it's there for your brain to use if you need something clearly laid out so that you could just immediately go in, see what your tasks are for the day, and then do it. Just accomplish it, right? Now, when we're talking about the expression era, now we're talking about something completely different. Now we're talking about the energy of showing up within a community. Now we're talking about getting involved as far as NLP and the subconscious goes so that you understand that your brain is actually getting you in the way. And that's what's stopping you from showing up authentically and using your voice how you would if you're on a podcast, right? Like, the whole reason why you're having a hard time on TikTok is because you feel like that you need to perform. And the thing is, you don't need to fucking perform. Okay. I said it. And that comes with recognizing your subconscious thoughts and recognizing your blocks and your patterns so that you can break through them. It starts with the quiet era. Can you regulate yourself before you even get onto the camera? Because when you get on the camera, there's going to be something completely different happening where now you have something focusing on you and you're aware that that's focusing on you. And you need to regulate yourself because when you're regulated and that camera is capturing you, then you're not performing. You can show up as yourself and say what you need to say without it coming across as anxious, overeducating, performative. The list goes on and on. And that comes from understanding your blocks, your thoughts, your fucking alarm that goes off in the middle of your podcast, right? Then out of that regulation, we can start to go into creating content. And we can start to go into, oh yeah, I can actually express myself like this, or I could say that. Like, it's okay for me to say it this way. Like, you just unlocked finding your authentic voice. And it doesn't come from conscious coaching. It comes from releasing the shackles in your internal story that are holding you back from saying what you truly want to say. And then once we've released that, we can go out into the world on our phone camera, on our YouTube camera, wherever the hell it might be, and we can say what we need to say. Okay? That expression era is so much more than a coaching. This is a community for you to start to understand yourself for a year so that you can show up as you and you can create as you and you can offer any kind of template, package, coaching offer, community course, whatever the case may be, as you with your energy, because your energy at the end of the day is going to be what sells something. Okay? Okay, glad we had this conversation. Getting back to the calls here. The calls are so much more drastically important. And I'm going to leave you with this because if you think about when an email is sent, okay, let's just take the first day. The email is sent about 8 hours after they give their email on this piece of paper, right? If you're a business owner that attends expos and you get people to write down their emails on a piece of paper, you've lost every piece of business that you possibly thought that you had coming to you. I'm just going to tell you right now, okay? Because people are not going to be going through their emails and reading your email and being like, oh my God, I need, Sean's photography package. They just won't. We need to think about in terms of, are they going to be taken care of as soon as they enter something? So Alex Hormozy was talking about how when somebody signs up for something, if they get an automated immediate email, they're more likely to show up, like 300% more likely to show up for whatever that thing is, whether it's a webinar, whether it's a sales call, whether it's a masterclass. They're 300% plus more likely to attend than if you have time between when they sign up, when they give you the email, and when that email goes out. So the longer the time exists between the initial giving of contact information and then the actual follow-up, the less likely you're going to get business. If there is an email that goes out as soon as they sign up, like how with the booking a call happens, They're more likely to show up for the call because they're getting an email immediately after outlining the details. And then not only are they getting an email immediately after, they're also getting follow-up emails about, oh, hey, your Zoom call with Piper Rose Events is in an hour. Make sure you're on the call. Here's the link. So having that automation and having any kind of immediate contact touch point is so crucial, because that immediate contact point is going to be, in often cases, the make or break for a lot of people. So consider that when you go to set up any kind of lead form, any kind of contact form, the reciprocal energy, number one. Number two, what are they getting in exchange in terms of the actual energetic component, right? Like the freebie, is it just the spreadsheet, or does it have a little bit more to it? Even when it comes to things that you're selling, are you selling, just a template, or does it have more to it? Where is the conviction behind it? Where is the energy behind it? And then the third piece here is the quicker that you can get the contact, the quicker you can get the information sent to somebody, basically just eliminating time and space between when they sign up and when they're going to get any kind of information. We want to make that time as short as possible. We wanted to make it, the more instantaneous, the better, obviously. However, there are going to be certain cases where there might be an hour lag based on just networks and emails, etc. So can we close the gap there so that they can start to also come closer to us, and we can close the gap in terms of turning them from a lead into an actual purchase, right? Because with 31 calls booked, even though it was the sixth call that showed up, let's just do some math really fast. Let's do 1 out of every 6. That's 15%. So 31 times 15%, that's going to be 5 calls closed. And 5 calls closed times the typical average price is like way more than what you typically would be making in a month, right? So that is very, very important to run your numbers and to understand, like, okay, this is how important closing that gap is, because it could turn $0 into $18,000 just because I just did the math. Okay. Thank you for tuning in. If you joined us on YouTube, let me know down in the comments. Let me know what your biggest takeaway was out of this episode. And if you are listening on the podcast, please leave a rating and review, because it's going to help the podcast grow. And also, I am going to be doing, I'm going to be reading off reviews for certain podcast episodes, like I did at the beginning of this year, and doing shout outs with those reviews. So please leave a rating and review for the podcast, because my podcast is my baby this year. This is the absolute must, because I feel so myself when I do this, and I totally get like very energetically, like jazzed is a good word for it. Okay. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll talk to you soon. Okay. Thanks. Love you. Bye.